All right, so hello everyone. My name is Megan Zagorski. I'm here from the C.C. Miller Library, and I am super happy to welcome today the Squirrel Hill Poetry Workshop. They've been meeting here at the C.C. Miller Library for, I believe, 10 years now, and they are such a delight every time they're here. We're so happy to have them with us, and they are going to be sharing some really delightful work with you today. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to their facilitator, Rosaly Roffman. So Rosaly, I'm going to go ahead and unmute your video now, and you are good to go.
Unmute myself.
Oh no, you're good to go, Rosaly.
Good to go?
We can hear you.
So there is a little notice that says that. Okay. Greetings, everybody, and let me just try something here. Yes. Okay. It is a real delight and challenge. It certainly is a different way of doing things. This is our yearly reading that has happened in October. And it's not a total compliment of our poets, but here we are before you. And I will introduce particularly those people who probably don't know this a lot about who we are or how we operate this. And I'm going to make it brief. There's a lot more. We have a website, and if you just press Squirrel Hill Poetry Workshop, it will come up, and there will be full bios, most of them updated, of each member, present day member of this workshop. So I am pleased to be here and to be the governor, so to speak. The names have changed for the person who is convener, facilitator. Today I'm going to say governor. And I will tell you who we are. So, and the way this will go. So there'll be very, very brief references to the poets. I will name them, who will be reading and in what order. But first I want to say something about the Squirrel Hill Workshop, and I want most of the time to go to the poets, but I want you to know about the history, a bit of the history. So it's with real affection that I tell you the Squirrel Hill Poetry Workshop started in 1978 to bring together local poets for reading and a discussion of each other's work. And was founded by Sue Samuel Elkin, and it was at the Squirrel Hill Library, thus our name. And we really call ourselves the Squirrel Hill Workshop Poets at C.C. Miller, because that's what we are, and we respect our location. So members came from many places, of course, Squirrel Hill, and in 1991, Kermit Jackson became our director, and when he passed away in 2000, can hardly believe that, and there I was, and I was asked to become the convener and facilitator, and we use this word director, which I do not use anymore, or because I had to do that with, and I had some assistance from some current members. So we met at the Squirrel Hill Library, and in 1910, the workshop moved to C.C. Miller in Edgewood. And membership has remained steady, typically with maybe 14 poets, and 14 to 16 has included over the years persons from varied professional backgrounds: kindergarten teacher, a salesman, a composer, college professors, a retired biochemist, a librarian, a biomedical researcher, and an occupational therapist, a psychologist, and a good humor man. He was there at the beginning. So the workshop has published 2 anthologies. They are not in print anymore, but I can hold them up and show them to you when they are at the library. The first decade, and the second one was Pittsburgh and tri-state area poets. So without any more ado, I can tell you that a number of things have gone on. We have most recently had a 40th anniversary celebration, which was held at the Heinz History Center, which is a wonderful project on poetry and community. And we were the first to be asked for our papers, such as they are. And so we have an archive there, and it was a wonderful event. Okay, so the list of poets today is as follows. It's not alphabetical, but you can look up the bios on the website and on some of the notices that have come out that Joan Bauer, who is a member of this workshop and some wonderful work for poetry in general, and cannot unfortunately be here today, has sent out wonderful notices with bios. So our list of readers is Pam O'Brien and Nancy James, Don Krieger, Chris Michaels, Arlene Weiner, Rosaly Roffman, Randy Minnick, and Shirley Stevens, in that order, and each poet will name the next one who will be reading their work for you and to you. So we start with Pam O'Brien, who 2 years ago retired to Florida, but has 3 chapbooks and a full-length poetry collection. And we look forward to hearing her read today. So I think that we'll just start there. I can just tell you briefly about, let me do it by the foursome here because there are 8 of us, and I think it will be easiest to do that. So Nancy James follows, and she has a collection of poems, No Time to Hurry, and a chapbook, Resilient Spirit, and there are other things that we can say about these wonderful poets and all the things that she has done, workshops, and has had a press too in her life. Don Krieger is a biomedical researcher whose focus is the electric activity within the brain. And he's the author of the hybrid collection Discovery and a 2020 Creative Nonfiction Foundation Sciences Story Fellow. His work has been published in a number of places. And then for this, the final of the quartet here, we have Chris Michaels, who comes to us from England in 1971. And has done extensive reading, has been invited to enter these wonderful anthologies, and gives us her work sometimes combined with paintings, drawings, and just is a wonderful presenter of her work. So I'm going to stop right here and say, Pam, let's hear you. Pam O'Brien.
Showed up to unmute me?
Yes, now you're unmuted. Oh, no, now you have to, I can't hear you.
Now, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, you're good, Pam.
Okay, great. So I'm coming to you from Florida, where according to all the pictures I'm seeing on social media and Facebook, it is so beautiful with all the trees up in Pittsburgh and the leaves this time of year. And I'm so jealous that in about 60 days, when I'm not slipping on the snow and ice, I will be very happy to be here in Florida and stay here. So the 5 poems I brought today I'm a part of a collection of poems about the pandemic, and I'm reading them in the chronological order that I wrote them, and all of these are poems that the Squirrel Hill Workshop has helped me with over the past 6 months. I was able to rejoin with them because of Zoom. Otherwise, of course, I couldn't be there because I can't be there physically. And so here we go. The first poem, I think needs a little explanation at the beginning. I think most of you know the word hallelujah. Excuse me. And this is a story about a time in my family when they actually ordered a cake to celebrate the end of some bad times. And the word hallelujah was spelled Allayyluya. So all of you who are interested in words in English will know that's not the way we spell hallelujah. This is pandemic 1, hallelujah. My grandparents used the lace tablecloths, the good china, for every occasion they could think of. They wanted families together, eating, drinking, playing cards. Once, after a bad flu season, they held a hallelujah party and even ordered a bakery cake. The cake arrived with Alleluia in blue on the white icing. There were at least 30 of us laughing that night. Then we played euchre. Those grandparents grew up in World War I, raised their families in the Great Depression, lost their businesses, their jobs, sold a lace tablecloth or two. Then they gave their children to World War II. They didn't have much or need much. Homemade Afghans covered the bare spots on couches. They grew beans and dahlias in the back flower bed. They read books, took Sunday drives, did jigsaw puzzles, and planned lace tablecloth events. I grew up with this. And then I watched my children grow away from this, move away, host only small casual parties. Eventually, I left too, for a retirement community in Florida where I have everything I want, but not everyone I want, partly because I want my grandparents back. In this pandemic, I wonder what we will learn, and when it's over, will we throw big parties just to be together again? Will we dig out the good china, the lace tablecloths? Will we be sorry we drifted away? The second pandemic poem is called I Can Hardly Wait. The year I went to live in Madrid, I arrived 2 months before classes started, weeks before my residence room was ready, lived on a cot in the 5th floor hall for 2 weeks while they refinished the floors downstairs, waited 3 months for my trunk to arrive, tried to speak Spanish with a skeleton staff who couldn't understand me, learned how to take a bus to the airport in case I decided to go home. That seemed likely. Sure, there have been times my life went by too fast. A great book, the end of summer, vacations, the classes I took or taught, and times like those first months in Madrid when it went too slow. Being a stay-at-home mom with infants, recuperating from back surgery. And of course, there are those times of waiting on God. They can go on forever. I am working on waiting, on finding beauty in aloneness, on holding quietly the gift of time, on not thinking time loses its sweetness when there's too much of it. That one was written probably long about April into this pandemic. This next one, I think, is June, and it follows that waiting theme. It's titled The Waiting Room. There were other times of not having control, when my mother lost all those other babies after me, when my summer job boss skipped town with my paycheck, when a cyst grew so big on my spine I couldn't walk, when my husband had a heart attack, then cancer. We are all upended in this pandemic. For some, it brings death. For others, the loss of a job or cash or routine. The taking for granted we've become so good at, upended too. Now we have to pay attention. Sometimes I try to reach back into what I remember of hope. Sometimes I just let it be. Sometimes I go outside and lie on the grass and listen to this quiet, peaceful, terrifying life. Next is a poem called Breathe, and I wrote it the week after the Floyd death. The year my husband had cancer started when he told me he hoped to be alive when the mimosa bloomed. That was the year the air began to move with something new. Sometimes I wonder if we had known what was waiting for us, if we would have stopped right there in the road. And now, in this year of the rat, again, there is no safe place. We are all that child on the bike, careening into the busy intersection, precarious, shaky, gone. We are all Peter stepping out of the boat onto the Sea of Galilee. Another sinking, another sadness woven into the cloth of this sad year. This year of wondering how to breathe, dangling upside down, how to just breathe. And the final poem, and I need to say a word to our workshop member, Randy, here. I'm still working on the first 2 lines, Randy, about sound waves. I might need to call you. This poem is called Sound Sense. They say that ambience gives the impression that sound waves bounce off people, creating sound. I miss that sound, and that the human ear can hear over 300,000 sounds. I'm down to about 125. I read somewhere that sound gives us our sense of social reality. I miss social reality. There are still sounds that comfort, logs crackling on the fire, soup bubbling on the stove, sounds that terrify, ambulance or fire truck or breaking glass. Sounds that will haunt me forever. The wind groaning around the corner of the house, the adagio second movement of the Concierto de Aranjuez. But it is so damn quiet. I think I heard a butterfly land on the star jasmine this morning. Mostly what I want to hear is the extended family laughing as we play charades or Monopoly. My smallest grandson humming to himself as he studies oh so carefully the World Atlas in the Carnegie Library. So thank you. That's it for me and from Florida. And our next reader is Nancy James.
Okay, it looks like Nancy's going to need just a moment to get this audio going here. Hang on one moment. Let's see. Okay, we can't quite hear you yet, Nancy. Hang on one moment, please. I'm going to see if I can sort this out on the back end here.
Is that okay?
Yes, we can hear you now, Nancy. Great. You're ready to go.
Okay. Now I'm going to set, they said I could set my, my phone down on the, okay, can you hear me now? Hello?
We can hear you, Nancy. You're ready to go.
Well, when I set my phone down on the placemat, can you still hear me?
Yes, that's okay.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's okay. You're good.
Is that good enough?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I have 4 poems to read. First, I'd like to say that for poetry, I like to use my full name, Nancy Esther James. And let's see, I was going to say something else. Well, probably wasn't important. Okay. I have, as I said, 4 poems that come from my experiences of residing and teaching English in Asian countries, which is a few years back now that I did that. I spent 3 academic years at a women's junior college in the city of Nagoya, Japan. And the first poem is about that experience of teaching. The title of the poem is Person from Far Away, which I have in quotation marks because, well, you'll see why, because the first stanza explains that title. Person from far away, the literal meaning of the Japanese word for foreigner, gaijin, meaning distant one. I, American, sojourning in their land of lotus ponds, cherry trees, temples, observing their rituals of tea drinking, flower arranging, haiku writing. I respected because I was Obasan, grandmother aged, honored by those who knew me as sensei, teacher. When not working at the college, I walked, rode buses, shopped amid a world of black-eyed, amber-hued faces. Gazing through my own gray-blue eyes, I could not see myself, plumper, paler, did not think about my strangeness among those who belonged. They seemed to welcome me, to accept my plodding gait, my clumsiness with their language, my choice as their guest to behave with courtesy, gratitude, respect, and an unspoken promise to treasure ever after memories of their sharing their with me. So the academic years that I spent in Japan were 1990 to 93. 3 years earlier, in the summer of 1987, I was with a group, it was called English Language Institute China, and their purpose of their summer program was 6 weeks of a refresher course in English for Chinese teachers of English. So there were like little cluster groups of us that went to various different cities in China. Besides the classes and lectures, twice a week we offered them what we called cultural programs in the evening, and these were to introduce these Chinese teachers of English to aspects of our Western culture. And one of those programs was on our Christmas customs, in which we attempted to balance both the religious and secular ways of celebrating Christmas. So this poem is Christmas in July, Kaifeng, China, 1987. Snow dots fill a window chalked on a bumpy blackboard. Above the board's frame, a silver foil star glints. Santa in paper beard, Mary in bedspread blue, wait ready to enact for smiling students America's favorite secular sacred day, in the land whose stars are saffron on a red flag. At pageant Q, our foreign gold star will be taped to the peak of the tissue paper tree. We wonder, as our students wander in, what will they understand? I test the projector's power to print carol words on the wall. Unexpected, a tall party member from the faculty strides toward me, bearing the province's treasure, green melon of sweet red heart. My Christmas gift to you. I reach to accept this grace. Above the roof in summer sky, awakened stars begin to shine. The watermelons in China, particularly in that part of China, were round, spherical, not football shaped like ours, and they were very good. And the university where we were teaching made sure we always had these watermelons in the refrigerator of our residence. So they were special. Okay, a few years after my time in Japan, I spent 2 academic semesters in South Korea. And again, I was teaching English as a foreign language to the students there. This was at a Christian university in the city of Busan. Now, one of the nice things about doing something like this, like teaching English in another country, is that people like to show off their country to us. And so they would take us on excursions to historical sites and tourist attractions of various kinds. So this poem is about one of those experiences and one of the persons who was a tourist guide for us. The title is Dharma Lesson, and the word Dharma, D-H-A-R-M-A, refers to Buddhist beliefs. Dharma Lesson in Kyungju, South Korea. Professor Myung-Hee Hong, modest scholar in dark print dress, braves my table at friend's command. Entertain our foreign guest, practice your English. Over light Korean beer, she speaks to me of Buddhist thought in T.S. Eliot's 4 quartets. Of all faiths' common theme, resurrection, redemption. Next day, she becomes our guide through this ancient museum city. We thread a temple's winding trail, pilgrim's pathway from world to spirit, from commonplace to grotto sanctuary. She names the towering granite image, Great Buddha, Gautama Siddhartha. His third eye glows with topaz light above rapt, half-dreaming lids. Myung-Hee, her face as tranquil, explains bodhisattvas carved behind him. They vow never to become Buddhas until all beings everywhere awake. As we retrace our way spirit to world, she becomes again shy Professor Hong. Our friend nudges her once more. Tell her about your dogs. She took in a stray that bore 5 puppies. 3 not normal, not fit for homes. Covering her mouth with one hand, she confesses she raised those 3 herself, still shelters the mother as well. Professor Myung-Hee Hong ducks her head. Her dark eyes beam. And for my last poem, we're back to Japan. Every culture, every nation has its folk tales, and this is one of the folk tales. The name of the character in the folk tale is Taro. It's K-I-N-T-A-R-O. The first part of it, keen, means gold. And Taro, the last part of it, is a very common name, especially in Japanese folktales. So this, I kind of translated it in my title as Golden Boy. Gold and common boy's name. Okay. Taro, Golden Boy. Once upon a time in Japan, a baby boy was born near the forest below Mount Ashigara. His mother named him Kintaro, made him a shirt, red, embroidered with the character keen, gold. By the time he crawled, he was strong as a man. The wild animals became his friends. Rabbit, monkey, squirrel, deer, fox played games with him, held wrestling matches, which the rabbit refereed. Taro always won, except when the squirrel ran up his baggy shirt, tickled him, made him laugh. The bigger Taro grew, the better his shirt fit, and all the creatures together could not beat him. Taro never minded snowy weather when the animals shivered in their dens, or hot summer afternoons when all of them dozed. One autumn day, when this band of friends went to gather chestnuts on Mount Ashigara, the big bad bear of Bear's Peak charged at them. "Grr, get off my territory!" He reared up, flashed his sharp claws, his long pointed teeth. Taro was not afraid. He rushed at the challenger, grappled with him. The bear proved to be very strong, but the other creatures cheered Taro on, till at last the boy lifted the growling bear above his head. "The winner," the rabbit shouted. Before setting him down, Taro made the bear promise to be nice to other creatures. Forever after, the two of them were the best of friends. The red-shirted boy traveled throughout the forest, riding on the big bear's back. So, fairy tale happy ending. And now, next reader will be one of our newer members, Dawn Krieger, who also very helpfully sent me the phone numbers for this meeting today. So, there he is. There he is.
Thanks, Nancy. October 30, 2018. 3 of 11 killed at the Tree of Life Synagogue were buried. One of the 3 was husband to my coworker and friend. Unveiling. 11 lives taken at the Tree of Life. Hours later and miles away, our writing workshop canceled. Our chance for defiance, however small, gone. I waited at the funeral with hundreds to pass security, newsboys on the street asking with their cameras, who is afraid? I watched her halting walk to his grave, reluctant like a child. I followed like a child, with a shovel full of earth to cover him. I listened to the learned, seeking meaning, hundreds crowded into the Beth Shalom basement, police in armor at the entrance. When the doors locked behind us, I noticed the dampness and a draft on my bare neck. Today was 11 months, hundreds standing witness in the warmth beneath the trees. I still live, so I was there. I wonder, though, would we have canceled our workshop had it been a drive-by at a playground? Sunday drive. I only need to show my face at work sometimes. Most of what I do is online. Since the bug, though, it's that way for almost everyone. We ping pong every other week, her place or mine, 4 hours each way in my sealed car at 80, like a transport pod in Musk's Hyperloop. But we have windows. Truck packs race in slow motion, shredded treads, bright fog, roadkill, tunnel mouth, cops at every overpass, glaring like the dazzling sun. Once we stopped in Breezewood for crackers. The manager was terrified. He checked each of us at the door for a mask and any hint we had come for his head. Just this Friday, my office computer went down. I'm not essential, so I called someone who was to push the reset button. The grandbaby was born on Friday too. We drove up first thing Saturday, watched little Becky while Dad helped Mom in the hospital, then drove back 4 hours each way. Broken trees laid flat, cell towers and billboards. Jesus saves, fresh cracked eggs, hog barns, silos, keep America great. When will we reap the whirlwind? We're hoping Mom and baby come home today, and we're waiting 2 weeks to see if we got the bug, or they did. Driving back, South Jersey was empty and dark as a closet. Some fool sat in the blind spot on my bumper for half an hour. We were frightened, and enough is enough. I slowed to get his tag number. Not so easy since he slowed too. I turned on the dome light and dialed 911 as we passed him. Flags on every porch, church buses on cruise control, chain reaction pileup. Are you confused? Trust Jesus. 1-800-4-TRUTH. He bore off on an exit just then. Maybe the cops got him, maybe not. I wonder if he had a pistol and what would have happened had I. In the beginning, Lot's wife died nameless, not because she looked back, but for remembering. In a sweet vision, I lived naked, small trees wide spaced, warm shade, rich with apricots, a white beach in view, gentle surf, a dark squall, rushing across the water, a walled colossus to the south, massive piers, men of all shades at labor, oars and sails, slanted ships, long and low, bilgewater and shackles, Babel, the towers at city center in flames, smoke and harbor stench, billowing silver in the sun. I have always longed to live simply in an orchard, figs and cedar, olives and almonds, ladders and baskets, gloves and fresh bread, each day time stretching to the evening cool. So many remember their past lives as princes. Like them, I long for Eden, where tyranny and forgetting were new. Discovery was published this summer. Here's the title poem. Our shared humanities. Nothing is deadlier, dogma, so beautiful, courage, riskier, faith, seductive, privilege, more noble and just, war, more profane, indifference, crueler, God, no greater truth, kindness, nor greater lie, color, nothing more human, discovery. It's my privilege and pleasure to introduce Chris Michaels.
Okay, well, my first poem was written returning from Arizona in the middle of February 2020. The coronavirus was merely a black cloud, a small black cloud on the margins of my consciousness. And this poem really needs two voices, one of them Midwestern, but I seem to only have been blessed with one, so I hope you'll forgive me. It's called Off the Rails. Decrease my carbon footprint, or just for the adventure, decide to take the train from Flagstaff to Pittsburgh. After waiting an hour and a half, we board at 5 a.m., longing to fall back into bed, but roomettes of debarking LA passengers need to be cleaned. So we boarders are shunted to the dining car. At least we're first in line when breakfast is served at 6:30 a.m. A feature of real travel is eating with strangers. Oops, takes me a while to scroll down. The woman across from me, the waiter seats the woman across from me, first person up from coach, crumpled dress, tousled red hair, but full makeup intact, and one voluminous bag. She flashes a smile. I'm Marcy, only travel with one bag, easier to keep track. But last night in LA, stepped out for a smoke, 3 a.m., saw a new bag on the sidewalk by a closed cafe. She digs out a black leather tote. Why leave it for the next wino? Front pocket, $30 in change, nothing else. I keep my money and ticket in it. I live in Trinidad, love it, want to put it on the map, make money. I'm an artist, lots of good artists there. We made a video, I dance. Son, 21, still lives at home, for God's sake. He's added background music, drums. My latest husband made the graphics, real good. I sing. We're using it to sell weed, only the best. Don't care how much my son smokes, but no bad trips. My husband called it Queen of Weed on YouTube. We've got plenty of hits now, and we're being paid commercials, beginning to put art on the tube. Check it out on my iPhone. Clackety, 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 woo! Gotta run, it's a station stop, only 5 minutes for a smoke. Where was I? Oh, I can see you're tired. Me too, can't sleep when I'm away from home. Pops a pill. Take the train everywhere now, like the slow pace. When I was single, I worked 3 waitress jobs to make ends meet. Rush, rush, rush. Slow down, they would say. But I had to race back to feed my dog between shifts. How do you manage? I croak, thinking of the turquoise waters of Trinidad, mailing her weed, customs, and excise. No problem. Remember, Colorado was the first state to make it legal. Trinidad may be a small town in the state, but we grow the best weed and we ship it everywhere. After all, coast to coast, we're on the rails. Well, after that experience, not such a pleasant experience to realize how old I am. When your child becomes the parent. Mom, you're not dumb because you thought Comcast was sending you an iPhone for being a good customer. These con artists are very astute. They know what will catch your attention. You don't think the way they do. You're straightforward. You mean what you say. That's how they trap you. Now you have all this spam and both credit cards have been dumped because of a host of fraudulent charges. You are not dumb, but don't answer online surveys. Don't give out your credit card number. Never open a message you don't recognize. But I did recognize Comcast. Yes, but it wasn't from them. He wasn't naive. He'd grown up with computers. I knew his skills. But how did he learn to treat his mother with such patience? I'm recognizing daily the need for improved computer and digital skills and realizing how modern technology is helping scientists to find a vaccine for this plague. But also it's helping me stay connected with family I no longer visit in person. This 9-line poem called a nonette is 9 syllables in the first line down to 1 in the last. This is courtesy of my son. My 48-year-old son desire a weekly Zoom meeting to link himself, his sister, and me with childhood rituals, a bedtime story, Winnie the Pooh. They snuggle, I read, peace. One of life's blessings is rich music. The cellist, he arches towards the maestro's first beat, a slight man in a grey suit. His cello rests between his knees, the bow balanced lightly in his hand. We wait for the circuit to close, horsehair of bow to catgut of strings. Swaying, he succumbs to the music, nodding awareness to the orchestra behind him. Notes vibrate through body to instrument, eyebrows raised in ecstasy or drawn in agony. Eyelids close, mouth opens, a perfect O. No music before him, Yo-Yo Ma, silent as coy, slips through the store. Well, the balm of music brings me to my last poem, putting digital problems and COVID concerns behind me, for a while at least. This is my autumn poem. I'm sure everybody has one. Sorry, I'm just trying to get my screen right. Oops, I've lost it. Oops. Well, I probably can't get it up again. Well, let's see. Sweeping the tea house deck. Bristle broom swishes, yellow and brown magnolia leaves across the slick, wet cedar, clearing space for Tai Chi Chan. Leaves drift down. Autumn fog envelops me. Old Chinese poets savor a hazy view. So misty, so romantic. Soft focus, deep breaths, peace. Our next poet is Arlene Weiner, someone whose intellect, wit, and most of all her loving kindness is visible in her poetry. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I think the first poem I'm going to read is sort of a riposte to Pam, because it was written about just such a day as today, when we've had a cold rain after some warm weather. And I don't just have one autumn poem. It seems to me that I could probably do a book of November poems. This one's called Downward. Cold rain paves the path with gold leaves, calls to mind the future, full of snow. Must every bright thing fall, all wither, freeze, erased our swept paths, our steps. How to become like the earth that feels a fall as a drawing down, the way a lover's face is drawn down. How to get that unjudging appetite inward, inward, dust, petals, bed springs, water silvered with oil. Come, the stinking, grizzled man carrying a plank, the 16-year-old stricken in the stadium, millions of thistle seeds, sparrows, meteorites, to draw the sun a little and the moon much. And here's another seasonal poem, a little bit lighter. I call it John of the Lamp, which was just formalizing Jack-o'-lantern. John of the Lamp. John of the Lamp, poor fellow, you're quite unstrung. Cat or rat's got your tongue. Your guts are yellow. Your wide grin is hollow. Summon the young to a portal, they, callow, don't fear, like us who've clung to life so long. Tomorrow, your tallowy remains will be flung to the compost heap. You'll triumph, though, when next year a green vine will creep over the bordered lawn to say you were here. And yet another November poem, Foggy Morning Breakdown. Fog drops a woolly shawl over November's shabby shoulders, kind as the Vaseline daubed on camera lenses for aging beauties, gauze for menopause. I want to move from sleep to sleep alone, curl up a pill bug, creep into gray fleece, but the backslapping sun's opening a hole like a run in a pair of tights, and it's going to be another high definition day, sharp and loud. He's taking my scarf, my coat, holding up a magnifying mirror, reminding me I'm due on the morning show to chat with the anchor woman, Sally Death. My mother died in late April, and unfortunately because of COVID-19, we really couldn't give her the kind of funeral that she deserved, and in fact, nobody in the family could visit her for about 5 weeks before she died. So I'm going to read a couple of poems referring to my mother. This one is Tontine, and it was written while she was still living. I don't suppose that if you were a Borgia, you'd join a family tontine, a scheme where each one antes and the last to die takes the whole pot. My mother's the winner of this kind of lottery, the last of 5 sisters and brothers, 18 first cousins, and so the last to sweep together the memorial board of gold and grit, cigar bands, needles, pennies, buttons. Last to mourn Charlie, who walked away and was never heard from again. Dorothy, who died in her teens. Last to have seen my grandmother's tears falling into the soup she stirred. Last to remember her, dark-haired and plump, the scorched sweet scent of her daily baking. And who, after me, will remember my mother knocking the inside of her wrist against her hip, or leaning into the living room doorway, singing, making an entrance like a showgirl, which makes me smile. Like Don, I'm going to read a poem that refers to the Tree of Life shooting. I live about a block from the Tree of Life synagogue, in which, I think everybody probably knows, but in which 11 people were killed and 2 injured, and actually 3 police, I think, also injured. It was a massacre. This is a little poem. You may know that Jewish people have a custom of leaving a stone on a grave. This poem is a stone, a small, hard thing. It says, I stood here. This stone is made of tears, a heavy thing. These tears say, peace upon you, a hard, heavy thing. Even a stone does not last forever. This hard, heavy thing will not last forever, but it will last a long, long time. And the next poet is Rosaly Roffman, whom we've already seen. Rosaly has amazingly, over many years, lived in Indiana, Pennsylvania, and come in to be in and lead the Squirrel Hill workshop. Amazing. And I think she'll speak for you best in her own words. Rosaly.
Thank you, Arlene. It was very moving from all of you, and I didn't have a chance to say something briefly about the poets who are in the second half of this reading. So myself first, and I don't have to say very much, except there were 3 books, a National Endowment, and a myth and folklore center that is established, or now going to be established at Indiana University of Pennsylvania. So Arlene, I just wanted to mention, just so that I do get it in, is also a playwright, has 2 books of poems, and it's a wonderful poet whose work has also been read in Almanac, on Almanac, and in Almanac, Garrison Keillor site. And to wind up will be, I'm just going to take a couple of minutes just to do this so that I know that I have done it for all of you. So after her, after myself comes Randy Minnick, who has 2 poetry books, and poems have appeared in various publications. And then finally, Shirley, whose recent poems have appeared in Potter's Wheel, and who is a wonderful teacher of poems and has is the author of Pronouncing What We Wish to Keep. So now I will begin this reading with exactly, it's following Arlene, but it is also a connection to the event that she described. This is the anniversary this weekend of, this is the 2nd year of that event. And the Squirrel Hill poets gave a reading along with the Pittsburgh Writer Studio of the Squirrel Hill Library. And the reading was at the Squirrel Hill Library. So we felt particularly that that was appropriate and asked permission to do that. And we did that maybe 2 weeks after the shooting itself with the other group as well. So here is the poem, and I was going to start with this, and so I will. it's also about stones, and it's the same, basically the same idea. And someone asked me, why are these little stones sitting on top of the big ones? And this was at the gravesite of a family member. And so I had to try to find out more because I really didn't know the answer. And this is the poem I read at our reading in the Squirrel Hill Library. I myself didn't know this, but someone said, putting a stone on a grave is what you do when visiting the dead in some cemeteries. It means you, the living, are visiting the dead. It means you understand this person is no longer here, but you're saying hello. Not baskets of flowers, but something from the world, yet not alive, still with a history. This is what you leave. It says, I have come to see you. The size doesn't matter. In Crete, there is a place marked by a stone called Omphalos, where the umbilical cord of Zeus is said to have fallen. It connects the living to the dead. It is holy. The above are just musings. No one knows too much about such things. And in thinking about this reading and what is going on in the world, I thought about rescue. I thought about provocation and rescue. So some of these poems are not new ones, but basically that is the mindset here. And the first is about an injured bird. And that used to happen a great deal when I lived in a house with glass doors. How to help an injured bird. Check out any bird that's lying sideways on the ground. Fall is when many birds fly into windows. Prod the unresponsive bird's legs. Keep the bird warm. A sidewalk could leach out body temperatures. Put the bird in your pocket to warm it up. Do not worry about disease. Find a little box or paper bag. When birds go into a quiet, dark spot, they rest. A brown paper bag is the perfect bird ambulance. Let the bird rest for an hour. Wait until it becomes alert. Then take it to a park with a water source and let it go. Don't throw the bird in the air. Just let him leave. Then it occurred to me there are some things the imagination can't quite do. And I thought about my own doctor here in Pittsburgh a while ago, who became a poet himself. What the imagination can't do. My doctor believes in evil but won't discuss it, so I gave it a face and made it speak with a life of its own. I sat back wondering if it were sage or had one bit of kindness. Don't fool around, the face said. I didn't know I had seen it before. Still, it threw the room down, and it wasn't interested in woe or my insistence on making friends. Small gratitude poem. You risk it, take my hand, and there is a small animal in the holding which makes its way through your fingers and surprises all the sleeping creatures, the knot of toads, the muster of peacocks, the skulk of foxes, the charm of goldfinches. All are so stirred by the faint music that they lead you down the familiar path, knowing how easy it is for strangers to stumble along the way and miss all the stored up grace in this. forest. The search. Outside my window, the world looks like yesterday, but it's not. Hard to know if I missed the guest. Come with messages, but no gifts. How to go on. Spare the unborn. Look for a mask that works. One for inside and outside. A Joseph mask of many colors. One that's reversible. One that can stand up. One for the unspeakable. And connected to that and written most recently is a pantoum, which is a specific form that repeats lines, and you will hear it and it becomes a kind of chorus. And this poem is called Atonement. It was written just a little while ago during the time of atonement, the Yom Kippur. 5781 is the year. Now when I walk in the street, I avoid eyes and imagine a chin under a thin triangle. Perhaps there will be an operation on faces and everyone can look alive by pressing a button and imagine a chin under a thin triangle, a new vocabulary of wincing and singing, and everyone can look alive by pressing a button. Now, who would choose to live in this wordless world? A new vocabulary of wincing and singing, not old nor young. This will become an alternative time. Now, who would choose to live in such a wordless world? A new vocabulary of wincing and singing, not old nor young. This will become an alternative time. Now, who would choose to live in such a wordless world and later watch hell from the high sycamores of heaven? Not old nor young, this will become an alternative time. For we don't recognize the little world we once knew when we look down from the high sycamores of heaven and withdraw from the virtual agony of tenses or purple. If we can't recognize the little world we once knew, realizing our own fathers never had real fathers themselves, then we who withdraw from the virtual agony of tenses or purple will continue to feed those persistent and hungry, punishing gods. And I want to end here with two poems that are sort of reconciliation poems. And this one is called The Wisdom of Healing. So one of my books, a book that I edited that was used in medical schools, which I didn't even know about, called Life on the Line, is really a connection to healing and words, but not that alone. And I think about that. So this is called The Wisdom of Healing. And it's as if, I think that it's implicit here that sometimes the body has a different life from the one you are thinking it might have. A light now, the therapist says, walk, toes touching, step like you're stepping on a little baby's hand. There has to be a kind of mourning for your leg, he tells me, like the Japanese TV dog for his mate. Now delicate in your house, watch the morning light for a while. Let someone wash you with special soap. Let another stranger find your only bathrobe. And like the Japanese, don't say thank you, because once you learn the bittersweet, that message that goes on after all is said or pronounced on this earth, we never have to say thank you or do a thing over again. You don't have to be the eternal thanker. Don't have to untie every elephant lingering in your lifetime of dreams. Enough to just leave a fingerprint, he tells me, or else kiss a leaf. Devote yourself entirely without bargaining to the fibula healing goddess. Let her hear how you laid down singing bones. And finally, a poem that searched for a doctor in Tokyo as another extension of the Japanese connection. I never found him, but he was instrumental in my healing when I was ill in Japan. Looking for Dr. Ishizuka. I try to find you in old Megoroku. Here you collect thin porcelain. Here how you have the last self-portrait of Picasso before his death. His the head of an old man. This original with skull-like features and blue, deep, dark eye sockets. I found your essay yesterday in an orthopedic journal in English and Japanese. Ashi wa daini da aru, you write. Feet are the body's second heart. They speak about everyone's inner illness or well-being. In your hospital, you developed x-rays of hurt people on a bus that crashed. Consider humans, I read on. 2 legs stabilize us and share our body weight, but like objects, we really need 3 supporting legs, you write. We should be tripods, or else have 4 legs like a cat's, or the Tokyo Tower. You write, how surprising to see people whose big toe crosses over the second one without pain. I remember that first orthopedic hospital you founded in Tokyo, next to your family's house. 50 years later, I search for you with a bowl for gratitude. Spread your toes wide and try to use them, I am reading. Spend some time barefoot and do exercises. Use those toes to pick up objects, you write. If I found you, I would thank you for that sage advice and for kindness, a jewel that lights our way all of the time in this life. It's my great pleasure now to introduce Randy Minnick, who will read his poems now.
Hello. My first poem is called Empty Nest, and some of you may ask, what on earth are you doing around that bird nest? So I think I should probably tell you. When I worked at Bayer Corporation, we had an environmental group, and one of our jobs was to monitor the bluebird nest boxes. This particular nest was too close to the woods, and so it had wrens. So anyway, that's why I was there. Empty nest. January, and the wren house is just a little box of twigs. His tiny mouth is quiet now. Its lullabies are sung. A cap of snow perches on the roof. There's no outrage at my standing here. Oh, but it chattered in July. Then the feathers flew. Mom and Dad, like anxious little arrows, darted in and darted out. The wren house was the bullseye of the world. It hunkered down, as mothers do, when lightning-driven winds stampeded through the field. It lifted up its feet as hunger prowled beneath, tried to slither up its pole. Until one raucous morning, when a dozen explosions of fluff burst from the door, some onto me. Like a grandpa with a newborn, I stood petrified. What should I do? Nothing, of course. They clung a while, buzzed away into the bushes. I didn't see the rest, the worried parents finding and feeding their scattered horde, the fluttering wings, the gaping mouths. Still, I knew I'd raised my own, much larger, but the same. They're flying too. Now, like the creaking swing, the icy slide standing skeletal in my yard, it sits abandoned, waiting until June restrings her bow and needs a quiver once again. I think we all have our COVID poem. This is one of mine. Naked. Long ago, in March, I think, I lived by the 5-second rule. Drop a cookie, eat it fast. Dog hair, blob of dirt, just brush it off. Terrible to waste a Twinkie. I strolled oblivious to microbe storms beneath immunity's umbrella. By leukocytes and T cells, they comfort me. At least they did. Today, I slink down empty streets. Viral ninjas slip unseen among my sentries. I wash my hands. I wash my phone. I talk into a mask and step around my friends. The medicine chest is empty. Doctors shrug and fiddle with their stethoscopes. The house is warm. The lights are on, but the door is off its hinges. Those medieval paintings of the plague, doctors wearing birdbeak masks, skeletons and wheelbarrows of bodies, peasants terrified and frantic. I understand much better now the sacrificial lamb, the rhythm of the drums, the dance around the fire in paint and wolf tooth necklace. And of course, the politics of the day. This one is entitled Neo-Nazis March in North Carolina. Hitler blew his brains out underneath the rubble of his Reich. That was my father's war, though. I only remember VE Day, the bells. Today I'm visiting in Bremerhaven, a cottage on a neat suburban street. The corpses burnt or buried long ago, reek and char all swept away. Uncle Gustav, grayed and grandpa'd, leads me through the ragged February garden to his man cave, tucked discreetly in the little barn, twists the key, and Hitler's frozen visage glowers from the bar, framed by swastikas and flags, and Gustav's SS uniform still neatly pressed. Double lightning on its collar, death's head leering from his cap. I was raised politely, kindergarten rules. Never stared into a cobra's face. Ice flows to my fingertips. Gustav smirks. Double lightning flickers in his eyes. The monster only sleeps. I was only going to read 3 poems, but I found out that I had 3 minutes left, and the last 2 were timely but not pleasant. So I decided, what the heck? I'll read a cat poem. So this one is called Windows. Mimi loves the window seat, lounging in the morning sunshine, whirl of chickadees. She flicks her tail and dreams her wicked dreams. Today, the fox hunt clip-clops by. Enormous creatures, proud and muscular, hounds baying round their feet, humans on their backs. Her ears are locked, her nose is pasted to the pane. She turns to me wide-eyed. I'd never seen a cat amazed. The window calls her daily to watch the wonders passing by. Had her DNA been twisted differently, she'd likely own a telescope and read a lot of books. And now I would like to introduce Shirley Stevens, who is one of my favorite poems and one of the fastest poem writers I've ever heard of. Shirley?
Hello. Thank you, Randy. I'm so glad you read a cat poem. I just want to say that as the anchor to this poetry reading, I am so proud of all the poets who have read ahead of me. We have a wonderful group of talented poets. My first poem is a pandemic poem. How many of you have driven past a playground with no children? Shelter in place. Do the monkey bars miss the kids who used to hang face down from the horizontal ladder? Do the swings try to escape chains tied together by yards of yellow and black police tape? Do they miss creaking sounds and songs? Swing me, swing me, swing me round, don't let feet touch the ground. Do they remember Underdog, the sixth grader who pushed the back of the seat, then ran underneath as the child yelled, again? Do the slides miss ketted feet, which skidded down their blistering backs? Does the playground listen for laughter like that of loons on the lake? Does Rachel weep for her children? My second poem is written because, like many of you, I miss places that I like to visit, Cape May and Salem, New Jersey. Dream of Salem, New Jersey. This sheltering in place has set me dreaming of loblolly pine with egrets roosting overnight, pluming the marsh, of buttonwood, the plane tree near Stowe Creek, from which an eagle lifts off each morning, a glint of white on his head, of persimmon ripening like apricots along Frog Ocean Road, of figs sun-warmed against the south brick wall. I dream of bundled needles, mottled bark, phragmites waving in the breeze. I long to return to cattails, sea lavender, salt meadow grass. I grow tired of hunkering down in this Ohio River town. Finger the Buckeye in my pocket for luck. Pray I will be allowed to travel to Salem County once again. Recently, we lost one of my heroes, Ruth Bader Ginsburg. This is a poem in tribute to her. The notorious RBG. Ruth, you are Wonder Woman, sharing stamina, intelligence, longevity. You wielded the lasso of truth on the court. T-shirts proclaimed, you can't have truth without Ruth. You often carried a canvas tote bag stamped with the words, I dissent. A founding member of the Justice League, you fought for those who could not fight for themselves. Born and bred in Brooklyn, you claimed kinship with a rapper, the notorious B.I.G. Together, you kicked in the door. Mounting an elephant in India, you sat behind your friend, Antonin Scalia, said you helped distribute the weight there and on the court. Diminutive, you turned out to be a giant, insisting we the people meant all the people. You would like to have been an opera virtuoso, but instead became a rock star, as Chief Justice Roberts acknowledged in his eulogy. Battling cancer, you wore a fanny pack to hide the portable chemotherapy device. The day after your husband Marty's death, you were back on the bench. Precision was your byword, never 4 words when 3 would do. You named your heroes, Amelia Earhart, Nancy Drew. She didn't wait for boys to solve problems. And Deborah, biblical poet and judge, who held people to their covenant. Your voice was soft, low, gravelly, but when you spoke, people listened. Asked when there would be enough women on the Supreme Court, you responded, when there are 9. The next poem is an Ambridge poem, a Pennsylvania poem, Recipe for Funding a Church for St. Mary's, Ambridge, the church Pierogi built. Assemble an army of yayas, aged 70 to 90. Distribute flour sack aprons in the church basement. Wrinkled faces, arthritic hands, welcome Papu toting 300 pounds of onions, 600 pounds of potatoes. Appoint Monsignor head chef. Peel and cut russets into chunks. Simmer in pots of water until fork tender. Mash cooked potatoes. Add shredded extra sharp cheese. Cool in fridge. Mix flour, water, a touch of salt. Crack eggs in center of bowl. Whisk until blended. Knead, hum a hymn to Mary. Chill unto firm. Roll out dough 1/8 inch thick. Cut out circles using a drinking glass. Share jokes as you pinch, pleat, or crimp edges to seal them. Remember the crescent moon. Plop dumplings a few at a time into boiling water. When pierogi float, scoop them up with a slotted spoon, deposit on cafeteria trays. Caramelize onions, melt butter, drizzle onto each serving. If you feel fancy, add a dollop of sour cream. Sell to the faithful, contribute dough to the church treasury. And finally, a tribute to my grandmother, Lizette Gabert Trudel. Trudel rhymes with strudel, she'd say, chucking me under my chin. Her floured hands on mine would roll out dough for kuchen, slice apple chunks for filling. Oma wore high-top tennies, the quicker to scurry about, she'd say. She taught me to feed the rolls of the wringer washer, to hang the ghost on the clothesline in the yard. On Sunday, she buttoned up her leather shoes, headed for the Lutheran church in Ambridge, where they sang hymns in German, Luther's Ein Festeberg, marking the hours for Father Rapp's harmonist. The clock tower had only one hand. Oma birthed 10 children in the house on Centennial Avenue, Sewickley. When her parents passed in Germany, they left her an inheritance she used to buy a Tin Lizzie to start Trudel Taxi. She said, I need a business for the boys. Second son Wilbur purchased a Packard with running boards, drove her in style to Troy Hill, where she sat on the glider and chin wagged with Aunt Mary. Thank you so much, all of you who have listened to us today, and thank you all the Squirrel Hill poets, and especially Rosaly for her leadership, and Megan for all of her expertise. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Shirley, thank you, Shirley, for that lovely thank you. I am going to turn it over to Rosaly here for some closing remarks, and then we will wrap up for the day. So Rosaly, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I don't know why I have a extra special task for unmuting, but it is done. I want to reiterate what Shirley has said. It is just a pleasure to be among these people and their work. And we thank the C.C. Mellor Library and you, Megan, for making this possible today. and we have met solely in the library. And it is wonderful to say that the library is our home. And it is the home of the poet in a way. And not only where the poet hopes to be put, but I think that's really a sort of a marvelous record of us. And some of us know each other for more than 35 years, and it just goes on. I read something today, and I'm going to maybe leave us all with it. Two things. One was a poet that I brought to Indiana when I was there, Donald Hall, who's done a lot of writing about writing and was himself a poet. And he said, saying what a poem means is like summarizing Mother Goose. And it just tickles me. So people are so bent on trying to say what a poem means. I say, walk around in that land. I think that's pretty special. And the other quote I saw on the almanac yesterday, and it also was by a poet. And she said, I'm not very good at praying, but what I experience when I am writing a poem is like a prayer. And I think we see manifestations of that without going on and on. So again, thank you for listening, you who are there. And poetry is a kind of prayer, and I won't go on about that, but just to say how lovely it is. So thank you again, Megan, and to Erin also, your director, and for all the circumstances that you have transcended.
Well, thank you for your kind words, Rosaly. We love having you guys around, and it's been such a pleasure getting to sit in here and listen to all of the wonderful work you all put together. And thank you everyone for coming and spending your afternoon with us. This recording will be posted to the library's YouTube channel. So if you know someone who wasn't able to make it today or is interested in seeing this after the fact, you can just search for C.C. Mellor Library on YouTube and it should come right up. We also have another reading that was done earlier this week that was posted there as well. So we're starting to get quite a little collection of poets around here. If you like this program and you want to see some more things like it, your donations are what allow us to continue providing services to our community during this time. If you are so inclined and want to support your local public library, you can go to ccmellorlibrary.org/donate. Toss us a couple bucks, it really means a lot. You can also subscribe to our email newsletter, which you can do at our website as well, and that'll keep you up to date on anything that we've got going on here at the library, more poetry readings, more programs, more fun. So thank you all for coming. I'm going to close the meeting now, but everyone have a wonderful afternoon. Bye, everybody.
Thank you, Megan.